Amy.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a bit overwhelming, like just seeing the platform, but it was actually easy. It just felt overwhelming. It's actually easy.
Yeah, it can go either way. This morning we had issues. Somehow it didn't pick up my AirPods, so it showed that my microphone was going, and that my test everything showed up fine in the pre-test. And then the entire hour I was talking and nothing, you couldn't hear anything that I was saying.
Yeah, technology and then new platforms, right?
Yep, yep. I think we're just waiting for Robert to join us as well. Okay, Robert, so what you're going to do, I think there's a button that says that you can click to join the session, and that will bring you on screen. It'll go through a mic check and a camera check. So he's messaging me and saying he's here.
Perfect.
Robert has a fantastic testimony as well. I can't wait for you to hear his.
It's just incredible work that you're doing, Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I must say, yeah, it's really heartwarming to see that. And especially like with autoimmune conditions, like the doctor's like, oh, yeah, you can't reverse that. Or, this is it, like this is for life. And and you actually do it and then you prove them wrong, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to prove them wrong. I don't want to, but it's like, right?
Yeah. Well, you have to though. I mean, and I think that's the empowering part of hearing testimonies is that when you are so discouraged, there's Robert.
Hello.
It's awesome. But I was just saying, when you're so discouraged by getting a diagnosis, you go into depression. It's because they hand it to you like, here's how to live with this disease or how to live with this condition. And it's difficult, because I remember when I was a kid, my mom was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and my mom raised 9 children.
Oh, wow.
She was in her 30s when she was diagnosed with it, and her whole body just hurt. She would just cry and cry. And I, as a child, just looked at her like wanting to help her, but also fearful because she was so upset that it was genetic, right? That it would be passed down. And so she was like warning me that when I'm in my 30s that I may be getting this, And so it was scary. And my family all got lupus. Like my grandma had lupus, my mom had lupus, my sisters had lupus. And that's the thing with autoimmune diseases is that they love friends. They invite all of their autoimmune disease friends, right? And we're just told to treat them. And Robert is actually, this is kind of, he knows all about this because he's actually a pharmacist.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah. And so when my daughter was diagnosed with this, with polyarticular arthritis, it was devastating to see that she had to have chemo injections once a week for the rest of her life. I mean, that's essentially what it was. And they wanted to put her on pain medicine around the clock, whether she needed it or not, at the age of 10 years old. And that was that was their way of handling it. There was no other testing. There was no to see if there was something triggering that. It was just here, this is what she has. Here's your sign up for the Arthritis Foundation. Here's your backpack that can carry all your booklets and your warming pack and just send you on your way. And and the last thing was, and go check to see, go get her eyes checked immediately. And then walks out the door. And I'm like, her eyes checked? And is she going to go blind on top of being crippled? Because they told her she was going to be crippled in 8 months if I tried to go the natural route. And that was terrifying. Her hand was already starting to cripple. It was bubbled up like this, and her knee was twice the size of her other knee. And they just basically told me, that was all they could do. And when I went to the optometrist, I was like, wait, you mean to tell me that that arthritis affects the eyesight? I said, I had no idea. I thought it was a joint thing. And he was like, oh no, it is a joint thing. He was like, it doesn't affect the eyesight. The medication they're about to put her on can cause bleeding behind the eyes. And I'm like, are you joking? And they don't tell you that. And I honestly, when I talk to my clients, one of the things that I tell them is, don't ask your doctor about the medication you're about to be put on. Ask your pharmacist. They're the experts. They're the ones who know the cautions. They're the ones that understand, what this medication is going to do for you. Like, I'm always telling them, like, don't ask the doctor, ask the pharmacist. Because it is important. But fortunately, I am a strong, bullheaded woman. And I looked for the natural route for her and built this entire program for her based on knowing that the medication started with the word methyl, right? So it means that drug was addressing the methylation cycle in her body. So that meant that I could use food for that methylation cycle and try to heal it. So that's what I did. I made all of her foods bioavailable and really sunk into how to change this with food. And 90 days later, she was completely free of arthritis and Lyme's disease. And
Oh.
it's encouraging. People need to hear these stories. They need to hear stories like mine and like yours. And that's why I'm like so excited about Testimonial Hour and just really start inviting people into this community and to hear, because they need encouragement. They need hope. They need to know that there's other solutions out there, right?
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to introduce you guys, or if you want to introduce yourselves, tell me what you do. Whoever wants to go first.
Sure, I'll go first.
All right. Thanks.
My name is Robert, and I am a pharmacist that has moved into some work that helps support people with their mental, emotional, and then that translates to physical health through quantum mind coaching and energy healing. So
That's
it's a
Wow.
way to interrupt patterns that are happening in people's lives and then consciously create a new direction.
How
Yeah.
exciting. Oh my God. I love quantum energy, and like I've been reading a lot about it as well. And oh my God, we can just talk about it forever, but
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Robert, you have quite the story of jumping from there to here as well.
I
And
do.
hour-long interview, Robert and I was actually in a coffee shop, so it was a little loud. Like our local Starbucks sounds like like a club, but towards the end, he drops this bomb on me about he was in the middle of a heart attack when somebody helped him, and I'm like, wait, what?
Mhm.
So I invited him to come on the Testimonial Hour to share that story. So Robert, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to share it. So I had gone through a major period in my life where there was a lot of strife and challenge happening. Had just had a divorce, and there's all sorts of heartbreak stuff happening in that process. Then I found yoga as like what I thought was just physical exercise at the time being, but turned out to be so much more.
Yeah.
And I was laying down in Shavasana one day and heard a whisper to reach out to my aunt, because I was having all of these spiritual experiences that nobody in my social circle could really bounce them off of and they'd be understanding of it. But reached out to my aunt, who is a yoga instructor and immunologist on the East Coast.
Wow.
And I touched base with her, and she knew right away to put me in touch with her teacher that she was studying with for her spiritual studies, who's a shaman. And that teacher is still my teacher to this day. And there was a symptomatology that started to present itself. And I was in Sacramento, California at the time. She was up in Southern Oregon. And I was having chest pains, signs, symptoms of what could be potentially a heart attack. I'm in contact with my teacher, and she's like, you need to go to the emergency room, get checked out. So I do. I head over there. They do an EKG, they draw blood work. There's abnormalities in the EKG. The blood work comes back with the troponins, which are a cardiac enzyme, an indicator of heart attack, being elevated. And in this process, I'm in communication with my teacher, and her team of healers began doing remote quantum energy healing work on me. I'm at a point in this process of like, this could be it. And it was quite intense, quite severe of a situation where massively painful. And all of a sudden, I began to feel an internal shift begin to happen for me, and then a balancing. An hour and a half later, after that balancing, they drew more blood work and they had me there for further observation. The cardiologist, she comes in, she sits down with me, and she's like, I don't know what to really make of this, but the troponins have gone back into normal range. That's not something that happens. That takes 1 to 2 weeks once they're elevated to go back down. And this is not a test that has a lot of error to it. And so through that experience, having lived it, I was like, yeah, I don't know what to make of it either. Like, that was pretty miraculous. And so that is really what kickstarted my journey into wanting to study that, because being complete disclosure, I saw energy work as being far out in left field and woo-woo land, because it wasn't scientifically proven, it doesn't exist, but having lived it, it expanded my mind to what's possible. And know that that is a relatability with many people that might only know Western medicine as an option, as I once did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's such a powerful story. Like, you know, to sit there and be in the middle of it and be experiencing the pain and the fear and everything, and then having all of that shift out of there while you're still in the hospital. I mean, that's incredible. That's a powerful story. I know in my coaching practice that almost 100% of the time when I'm coaching someone with chronic health issues, they will 100% of the time either volunteer the information or be able to pinpoint, like if I ask them and prompt them, but 9 times out of 10, they will tell me without me even asking. They'll say it all started when, and then they'll name some sort of emotional trauma that they've gone through. And it's usually almost always 3 to 6 months prior to their symptoms first showing up. And it's phenomenal to see, like, it's just every single time. So if they don't volunteer it, which they usually do, they'll say, you know, it all started when my dad died, or all started when I went through a divorce, or, you know, all started, you know, whatever. It will, if they don't volunteer the information subconsciously, which I believe their subconscious knows it. That's why they're speaking it, right? But if they don't volunteer it subconsciously, then I will ask them, say, okay, well, let's back up 3 to 6 months prior to you having this first symptom. What happened emotionally? And they just kind of look at me and they're like, oh, I know exactly what it was. You know, it was my son tried to kill himself, or it was I caught my husband cheating, or, you know, whatever it is. It's these big emotional things that traumatize them, that has like created this energy inside of them that starts throwing everything in haywire. So it's so crazy to see how important it is that we go through and do some inner healing work. I mean, we really have to. It's essential. Not only do the work, but also maintain that healthy spiritual side.
Absolutely. And once get clear of it, stay clear.
Yeah, for sure. So Robert, do you have like a practice that you do now, like besides yoga, that kind of keeps you in that state?
Absolutely. A lot of it not able to share at this level, just very practices that are proprietary for my teacher, but there is every moment's a meditation for me at this stage. I live life in moments. It's not days, weeks, hours, it's moments.
Yeah.
So there's not really a time to, you know, go over here and just do this or that. It's always on and paying attention and conscious.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. And how long ago was all of this that happened?
2018 was that event there, with the heart attack.
Yeah.
And then it's, but there's, to share little bits, pieces that I can about the practices, there's breath work, there is visualizations, there is walking meditations, there is a little bit of qigong, there's yoga still, there's supplementation, there is getting adequate exercise, there is being reflective. There's, I could probably go on, but I think I'll pause at that.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to be able to start bringing those workshops here into alternative healthcare solutions, because I feel like, people need to learn these things. They need to learn, one, that there is healing to be had, two, that there are people who have experienced it and who have learned and mastered these practices and are ready and able and equipped to teach other people to go through it themselves. So I think it's just, it adds I feel like it adds to the shift that we're looking to make. We're looking to make, like, once you've experienced it yourself, you really get this, like, everybody's got to know this. Everybody's got to understand that they can shift and they can heal their lives. And it's exciting, And when we start coming together like this, I think that it's powerful to start bringing those testimonies, to start bringing those workshops, bring those systems and modalities to the table so that people can learn. I think a lot of times some people have what I call BS, is their belief systems that keep them from learning and observing different things. They have closed-minded, like you said, Robert. You kind of closed-minded, and your belief is that if science, if it couldn't prove it in science, it didn't exist, right? So
yes,
that was your BS.
It was.
I had to call you on your BS and take you through that, And so, anyways, it's just so exciting. But yeah, hey, and it's Rashi, right? Or how do you say your name? Rashi? Okay.
Rashi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about you.
Yeah, actually, I do want to say that, Robert, your story is so powerful. And so I was born and raised in India, and having spiritual experiences and having spiritual teachers is very accessible. So it's like, you meet this saint or sage and they just touch you and you're changed. It's like that. Like the quantum energy, the energy is so transferable. It's because they're at that level, right? Like where they say something and it's kind of manifested, right? They're like, God bless you, you're off alcohol for life. Like that's what happened to me. I was an alcoholic, and I went to the sage and he was like, oh, you drink so much alcohol. I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, come here. He's like, and he touched me. He's like, you're off alcohol for life. And after that, I went back to Melbourne, Australia, and I had this glass of wine, right? I was like, I don't know. I don't believe in all of this. And I had this sip of wine and I threw up. And that was the last sip of alcohol I took. And that was back in 2018 or 2016, something like that. I don't even remember. But yeah, this is so powerful, like the quantum energy. And I'm actually a Reiki healer and a quantum healer myself. And I really love when, someone shares this experience and how this has changed their lives. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's very powerful. And Jamie, you're a mom and I'm a mom too. And like moms are so powerful, they can move mountains. And that's what you did for your daughter. It just moved me to tears because it was so powerful. Like, the doctor gives the diagnosis and they're like, okay, no, this is it. And then you're like, no way, like this is not it. Like I'm sure there's something out there. And then like 90 days later, she's already healed, right?
Yes.
So that's beautiful. My journey basically has been a long journey, but cut to short, I'm a hypothyroid coach, right? So I coach women or moms specifically who have hypothyroid. I help them lose weight and basically reverse hypothyroid, so that they can have all of the energy to keep up with their kids and excel in their careers. And it started with my own journey when I delivered my girl in 2021. I had put on close to 200 pounds. I was massive, but it wasn't the weight of how I looked. It was the weight of how I felt in the body, right? It was too much weight. It caused me back pain, knee pain, and I had hypothyroid. So it was postpartum hypothyroid. And my doctor's like, okay, you got to start on the medication now. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. And I need to do something about it. Like at the back of my head, I already knew that I needed to do something about it. Um, and the worst thing was that I couldn't even hold her for more than 5 minutes. I just didn't have the energy. And with thyroid, when you have hypothyroid, you always like brain fogged and you're always tired. It's like constantly tired. So even doing the dishes and just small tasks took massive effort.
Wow.
And it was that one day when she turned 6 months, I remember I wasn't able to play with her. And she was growing, right? She's going to be a toddler soon. So I was like, I will not have the energy to play with her, right? And then she's going to play with someone else, like maybe her dad and grandparents. And I'm just going to be there just watching. I want to be part of this, right? And that when it clicked me, I was like, I called my doctor. I was like, I don't want to get on the medication yet. Give me 3 months and I want to reverse this. And she's like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay, go ahead. And then within 3 months, it was like I reversed my hypothyroid. Within 6 months, I lost all of the weight back to normal. And I have plenty of energy and I'm not brain fogged anymore. Which was the worst thing. It was like I'd be sitting here and I'm zoned out completely, and the whole world is kind of slowly passing by, and I'm just still here, no motivation, no energy to do anything whatsoever. And I'm here now in 2023 and I have so much energy. I can lift her. I can lift her friend. We can like play together. We can do trampoline. Like, let's go. Like, it's like life happening, right? So that's basically my journey. So I work with clients specifically who have hypothyroid. I help them lose weight and overcome fatigue, just so that they can have all the energy for their kids and their careers. And my biggest fear was just going back to work. I will not have. After maternity leave, I was like, I'm going to go back to work. I will not have the energy to work and then be with her as well. So that is basically what I did. But I think some of the practices what I did was completely change my lifestyle. I started eating healthy, like I completely, and I actually enrolled in a health coaching school. That's where I started learning about like health, food, movement, and practices combined with everything. And it's holistic, right? So it's not like your health is not just physical, it's like mental, emotional, spiritual. So they're all of that collective. And I just dived into it and like really learned everything about it. And yeah, I reversed my own hypothyroid, lost all of the weight, and now I have clients that I'm helping do that. So that's basically what it is.
That's beautiful.
That is
That.
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I love your heart for the moms too, because that's, I get there too. I see so many moms that are just, they don't have patience for their kids, and then they feel like they're a bad parent because they don't have the energy, or the kids or energy is up here, right? I mean, I have 7 children, so trust me, the energy level is if you don't.
That's incredible.
When you're so tired and you're just it's that feeling is it's crippling. It can be crippling because you're just like you said, depression sinks in. You're not able to take care of your kid. You don't have the energy for it. And that was another thing I remember as a kid. Of course, I grew up in a family of 9 children, and we all homeschooled, and we had friends that all had 9 or 10 kids, and they all homeschooled. And I really watched these other moms struggling with their health and struggling with having the energy to play with their kids. And I was like, man, I really want a lot of kids, but they're too tired to enjoy them. Like, like it was heartbreaking to see that their heart is for their kids, and they've sacrificed their body and everything, right, to have their babies. But then they're just not there. They're just not, they don't feel good. And then they're depressed, and then they're struggling in their marriage, and they're struggling, in their parenting. And, so that always, I think that when you look back at your childhood, you can always see this reoccurring theme of what you were supposed to do when you grow up, right? And so, like, I watched these things happen and it pained me, but it wasn't until I went through my own journey to really see that, oh my gosh, I can do this, that I'm determined to show that there is another way and to give life to moms and give life to people who are at their lowest. They just, it's twofold too. I would say that I'm noticing post COVID, I think we have to look at everything, every trial that we go through, there's always gold in it, right? I know that's difficult to say, especially when you go through tragedy, but there's always some sort of gold to be mined out of that tragedy. And the tragedy, or the gold that was mined out of, our life experiences, was this beautiful gift that we've transformed into helping others. I think also doctors are on that. So 2020 did it. We have my husband and I have this term called COVID blessings. Like it really, as devastating and as horrible as COVID has been on so many countries and so many families across the world, there's things that have come out of that are blessings. And one of them is that our doctors are waking up. Our doctors are now going, hold on a minute. We're seeing a whole movement here in Nashville of these doctors that are gathering together in groups of about 5,000 that are saying, hold on, there's something to this natural world and there's something wrong with this world that we have, created and signed up for, because we're really just keeping our patients sick, and they're angry and they're looking for that transition into the natural world. But the MD behind their name doesn't invite that. It invites the person who's looking for the magic pill or doesn't know and doesn't understand. And so hopefully we're working with this practitioner who is she is kind of a liaison to now start helping those practitioners to dive into the natural world and natural remedies and really bridging those gaps. So I'm excited for the movement of our culture. I'm excited for the movement of this shift that we get to be in on, to start sharing our word. The power of our testimony is so powerful that people can actually start to have hope and have understanding that our body was created to be powerful, living, thriving beings and full of life, right? I mean, we were created to be living life more abundantly, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, I get on this little soapbox and I just get all fired up.
No, that's good.
Love
That's
it.
what we need. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Need that message getting out far and wide.
We do. And it's growing. I think, like I said, I think that there's doctors who are starting to open up their practice to more holistic approaches, and the more we seek it, the more it's gonna, start surfacing.
Yeah.
I still have this slight feeling that I should go back to my daughter's rheumatologist and say, remember when you said, you
should. Oh my God, you should. And then,
just,
you should partner with him and then just do it.
Right. But you know what? In the moment when it happened, I was in so much fear because, well, first of all, I would say that my children had been a source of love for me. Like they were source. Like I wasn't getting that energy source in the right way. I feel like that comes from higher self, that comes from God, that comes from, spiritual walk. But for me, that love, that unconditional love that I had between my children and I, that was my love source, right? So, of course, anytime that is threatened, or the fear or thought of it being threatened, it's like it's a no-go, right? Mama bear comes out. So when that rheumatologist basically said, don't even consider going the natural route because she'll be crippled in 8 months, that to me said she's not going to support me in my intuition, and instead she will probably report me. And then my child will be taken away, So that was that fear that was like, nope, I can't do that. And had to, seek out other alternatives. But again, when there's tragedy, when there's something that's really, strikes you deeply, there's gold to be mined in that. And so, I'm grateful for my journey with her. And, and along the way, just like us, it's difficult when you're dealing with, well, I'll say this, when you're dealing with yourself, you know what's going on in you. You have this, you can pinpoint this trauma and that abuse and this thing that happened and, all of these things. But when it's your child, it's different. It's scary. It's what happened, right? And so my understanding of the spiritual side of all of that wasn't there yet. It wasn't developed. It wasn't understood yet. But as I started to go to these different practitioners and find out things, each one of them would say something that would link to some sort of emotional response inside of her. And I'm like, what are they talking about? And, one of the natural doctor that we went to, he was like, he did a biofeedback reading on her, found that she found that she had Lyme's disease, found all these things. But then he looks at her and he says, so what resentment are we holding on to? And I'm like, what? And I'm just sitting there like, what did he just say? And she's just looking at him like, I don't know. And I'm going, this is my 10-year-old daughter. But that put that seed in me that there was an emotional root to our illness and to our energy being off and, to us being sick. And so, of course, that was just one piece of that puzzle for me to just dive in and say, okay, there's got to be something here, I also had, to speak to that again, my oldest son was, he went through 3 months of vomiting. Like he literally vomited around the clock. He would think that he was fine. And he's like, Mom, I'm going to go work out at the gym. And then he'd grab his gym bag and run up the stairs and then throw up all over. He's like, nope, I guess I'm not going to the gym. And it was constant. He was losing weight so much. We couldn't find, anything wrong with him. I was in the emergency room almost 2-3 times a week because I'm like, get me some answers. Like my child can't stop throwing up. And they prescribed him anti-nausea medicine. They gave him antihistamines and all these different things to try to get his, response to stop throwing up. And we did every single medical test that you could find too. I mean, we did the scope up and down, we did the scope up, the scope down. We looked all throughout his body, did all sorts of blood work and couldn't find anything. And it was that last doctor that I went to with him that when she was a surgeon. So he actually had pyloric stenosis as a baby, where for those of you who don't know, it's where the bottom valve of your stomach grows shut and they have to do surgery to cut open those layers so that food will actually go through his stomach and digest. So he had that when he was an infant. But, they told us that it wasn't ever going to be a problem again. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, when he was a baby, he was projectile vomiting because of the pylorics. Maybe something happened. So I took him to a surgeon who is a specialist in, in that arena as far as the pylorics. And she came in, and as soon as she walked in the door, the first thing she said was, so buddy, what's got you so stressed? And he was just like, I can't stop puking. He's like, that's pretty stressful. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, right. Like, that's stressful. And she was like, okay, well, she pulled out every x-ray we did, every test result we did. And she just went through and she's like, I've got good news and bad news. Good news is you're perfectly normal. Bad news is that we can't find anything wrong with you. And, so I know that doesn't sound hopeful and you don't have the answers, but that's where it is, And I'm sitting here and I'm like, but she said that. She said the stress. So I said, can I ask you something? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. I said, when you first walked in here, you said, what's got you so stressed? And I said, I said, are you implying that the stress can cause him to be vomiting in his sleep and around the clock? And she's like, oh, absolutely. absolutely it can. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, so I kind of looked at him, and she just looked at my son, and she says, do you have things in your life that you're really struggling with? And he just got really teary-eyed, and he's like, yeah. And so she just advised us to go get some counseling. And we did. We went to counseling, and we found out that it was the perfect 8-year window of survivor's guilt for my brother who was killed in an accident. So, because we were never able to emotionally deal with that loss of my brother, which, to put things in perspective, family of 9, I'm at the top, my brother was at the bottom. So when I was having babies, my siblings were still babies. So my brother was 13 and my son was 8, and they were best friends. And so when he was killed in that car wreck, we did what we could in trying to help him process those things and heal, but it was never resolved. And so that just stayed in his body energetically for so long that then he was a hairpin trigger for stress that he would just, start throwing up. So it was like, I always explain it like you have a glass, right? And you fill the glass full of water, and any little bit of water that pulls in, on top of that water, it just overflows, right? And that's where he was. His stress level was already here. So any bit of stress that came on here just made him overflow with it, and he couldn't handle it. And so it was really eye-opening to see that even something from 8 years ago needed to be emotionally addressed with him. Otherwise, it was going to continue to show physical ailments. So it's powerful. We all have things that we go through, right? We all have, you can't be on this earth and not experience, tragedy or trauma or pain, right?
Yes, no, absolutely. And you're speaking my language entirely, talking about a root emotional cause of whatever the physical ailment is. Because it's like, I see that in the blessing of the heart attack that was a deep emotional trauma that was unprocessed, I was experiencing. And that is now, I would say, an area of expertise for me. People that have deep emotional traumas that they're struggling with. The energy work in particular that I do, that's an area that I feel very well suited to be of service of.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes us passionate about it, and we show up very authentically because that's where we are, right?
Absolutely. That perspective is so much more dialed in, and there's an ability to deeply empathize.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree as well. So even for like hypothyroid, when you get it, it's your throat chakra that gets impacted, right? And it's when you don't speak your truth, or you're speaking too much, or you're just not speaking at all. It's like something to do with your throat chakra being imbalanced. And I completely agree, like how in the ancient Ayurveda system and yoga system, they always talk about the 7 chakras. I'm sure you guys know about it.
Yes.
Right? The energy centers of our system, the spiritual energy, the aura, or the who we are, right? And if any of those are out of balance, those affect the physical organs that are part of that particular area. I have clients that have polycystic ovary syndrome, and that's the sacral chakra that gets impacted. Fertility and the cysts develop over there. So it's definitely healing those, and of course balancing with like nutrition and movement and spirituality and all of the emotions, release of all of the the heavy emotions is definitely what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So amazing. Well, you guys are doing great work. I'm so excited to have met you. I'm so excited that you're here, and we're able to share your testimonies today. I feel like, not to be on repeat here, but I feel like people need to hear these stories, and they need to see that there's healing out there, and to look within whenever we're trying to deal with illnesses, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yes.
thanks for doing that, Jamie. And thanks for bringing people together to spread the word and for letting people know that, there's hope, that
Yes.
it's not just the medical system, right? And they're understanding that too. Like you were saying, the doctors are in Nashville, they're also getting together and like sort of supporting this movement of alternative healthcare solutions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Rashi, for sharing your journey to how you got to be doing what you're doing. Just a lot of truth bumps experiencing as you talked about being in India and being an alcoholic, and then that all went away in an instant. And also your journey into hypothyroidism and helping support people there. It's a really powerful story. Jamie, thank you for creating another bridge in this platform that you gave birth to, and
It is
it's just
my eighth
yeah,
child.
It's
yeah. There you go. And just love what you're doing here, and appreciate the invite to come on and share. So thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. And for those of you watching the replay, you'll have the replay available today until 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. After that, though, you can head over to our community page. If you're not subscribed, there is a link in the chats in the reception hall. But that community is where you'll be able to meet healers that have similar stories. You'll be able to see all these replays. You'll watch these replays here that we just recorded, and you're going to also have access to all of those resources, the free consultations. Like Amber Bender just put on a great workshop on your DNA, eating for your DNA, and she's giving a free 90-minute evaluation workshop, evaluation call. So all of those will be in the community, and you'll have access to them 24 hours in an algorithm-free social media, which I love about that. So no more moderators stepping in and telling us what we can and cannot say about healing and health and truth. So anyways, thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and log off here, and just thank you for showing up and for being here today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, take care.
Bye.